want to welcome you guys all aboard the training train. I want to welcome you to the train station. Today's topic, we're going to be talking all about puppy training. And we get a lot of questions on the channel about puppy training, lots of questions about puppy potty training, crate training, socialization is another big one. And those are the three topics we'd really like to dive into. Now, we do our train station every week. If this is your first time here, we are, my name's Ken Steepe. This is Kayl McCann. I am a professional dog trainer. Kayl's just finishing her dinner. She just got back from teaching.
That's why I was giggling.
We're professional dog trainers. Kayl's actually a 21-time world champion of dog agility as well. So she's a bit of an expert when it comes to dog agility training. But we teach at McCann Professional Dog Trainers, where every single week we help more than 500 dogs to become well-behaved four-legged family members. And over the years, McCann Dogs has helped over 80,000 dog owners to overcome their training challenges. So we do this train station for you guys. We want to know your questions. I see the chat is lighting up. We see lots of great comments and questions in there. And you know what my favorite part right now is? Daryl, who PO32007 changed his name. We talked about that. But Daryl drops the toot toot, and that's what I love to hear here. Welcome to the train station. Now, an interesting little story. Daryl's one of our students, and with his Visual Luna, and they won a contest. The contest was put on Instagram by one of our moderators.
And students also.
And students as well, yeah.
And friends.
Yeah, small world. It was pretty exciting. It was fun to be able to give the Daryl and Luna something cool. They have a great Instagram channel that I love to check out, and I want to welcome all of you guys to the train station. Now, as I mentioned a couple of moments ago, we're going to be talking about some puppy training stuff, but this is for you. You know, before I was a dog trainer, I'd grown up with working dogs, not house dogs, not like pet dogs, and I thought I knew some things about dog training. And when I got my black lab Deegan many years ago, it didn't go well. My vet told me that I should take her to McCann Dogs. I went there and I learned so much. So on this channel, in these conversations, I want to share with you some of the things that I wish I knew, before I'd gotten that first, Deegan, my black lab. But if you want to talk just for a second about, what we do at McCann Dogs, and want to welcome everybody to the live stream.
Yeah, so we have all kinds of classes at McCann Dogs. We have puppy classes for puppies 15 weeks and under, and then we have grades 1, 2, 3, 4 that all deal with training your family dog to be a good listener and a well-behaved four-legged family member. Which is our tagline, but it's so true. That's our goal, is to help you to have a dog that behaves better so that you really want to integrate it into your family as much as possible. And we really want to give you the tools to have a dog that listens so well that you want to do stuff with them, and you don't just want to like shove them in a crate or put them in the backyard and be annoyed by them. We want them to listen well so that you're encouraged to go out and do stuff and involve your dog in, the stuff that you normally do with your family. So that's sort of the name of the game. Obviously, we do some dog sports as well, with me teaching agility classes. We have about 90 agility students that we teach a week. We do other dog sports as well, but the main component of all of our training is just the basics, and teaching them to be a good listener and reliable.
Yeah.
And to like to do it. For
sure. I want to welcome everybody who's here. I see Dan and Ellen Luton, Julie Rathy, Mishka the Lab, who I know has been working on some down training. She's working on her down. Greg Folds, Lamb Chop, Daryl, as I mentioned earlier, Melissa Salt, Madison Winters, Lori Hoffman. I want to welcome all you guys that I see in the chat. Now, something that I've been thinking about lately is I'd love to know what you guys are, where you're watching. Like, I'm interested to know, are you watching on desktop, on mobile, on TV? Let me know in the chat, because I could change. If we're on mobile, I think we're really tiny right now. Maybe we need to change the crop.
That's probably a good thing.
So, maybe.
We're probably cuter to look at when we're smaller.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't think that I would want to watch a large face of mine.
No, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
I don't know. With that said, let's jump right into this. Today we're talking about puppy training, and we're going to do a deep dive into your puppy training challenges. We're going to talk about potty training, crate training, as well as some socialization. But on that note, I'm Ken Steepe.
I'm Kayl McCann.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. So we get so many puppy training questions. It's hard to believe. I just see some people are mentioning now they're answering that question, watching on mobile, iPad, TV, internet, and laptop from our moderators. Yeah, lots of people watching on mobile. So that's really interesting to know. And I'm trying to make your experience better so it's easier for you to learn as we go through these. And I'll have to keep that in mind as we're going through some of our training today. So one of the most common questions we get about puppy training is about puppy potty training.
Yeah.
So I know some of you are here for different reasons, but if you have a puppy potty training question, drop it in the chat. Now's the time. We'd like to sort of jump into those question and answers. But one of the most common things I think I see is people that are having a trouble with their puppy potty training. Their puppy seems to be doing a pretty good job. They'll go outside and maybe the puppy doesn't go. They bring them back in, or maybe they do go outside, but they bring their puppy back in and then they have an accident.
Yeah, it's very common.
Let's talk about how you might overcome one of those challenges, bringing your puppy in and they do have an accident.
Yeah, well, where we live right now, it's extremely cold outside, and this is a pretty common problem for this time of year because the dogs go outside and they're cold and they don't really want to be out there. So they might not go to the bathroom at all because they're uncomfortable outside, or maybe they'll only go a little bit. And then sometimes people assume that they've relieved themselves. They bring them inside and then they sort of get distracted thinking that they can, rest easy because their dog was just out. And it's a pretty common time for dogs to have an accident. Or in the summertime or any other time of the year, they're with a puppy, everything is just a distraction. So if you go outside and your puppy's being very playful and they're just sort of chasing the leaves and running around and being silly and they aren't actually getting down to business, you might take them back inside and then they might go out, then they might have an accident as well. So we recommend that when you're working through this type of issue with your dogs, and this is actually a good tip whether you're having issues or not, is that when you take your dog outside for a potty break, that you should go out either with the purpose of business or the purpose of pleasure. So if you're taking them out to relieve themselves, we recommend that you take them out on leash and try not to allow your dog to walk you all over the lawn. Remember, this is something that used to irritate me about you and your dog when we first met.
Yes, yeah.
So I would help him take care of his dog, and his dog would have to find the perfect spot, and I would be out there forever with her on the lawn. And my dogs just go out and I say hurry up and they pee within seconds. So anyways, that's something I helped Ken with many years ago. Yeah. But it's really helpful. So I basically just go out and I find a spot and my dog sort of gets that area. And I'll use a hurry up command once they sort of have an idea of what that means, or go pee or whatever you want to say. I'm not a go pee kind of person. Hurry up is better.
This is important. So keep in mind what term you want to use if you're teaching your puppy to go potty on command, because you're probably at some point going to have to use it in
around
public.
A lot of people. Yeah.
So this is something that people will sometimes say to us, if they've trained their dog to go
give mommy a pee pee.
Yeah, or go tinkly or something. If it's something really silly, then keep that in mind. You might have to do it when there's other people around.
Maybe you're confident in your go tinkly and you just ride that wave out. Not me. Anyways, take them out and sort of stay in one space and allow them to go to the bathroom. Don't let them go for a long time. And if your puppy is really so truly distracted that they don't go right away, chances are they probably don't have to go that bad. But when you bring them inside, we wouldn't recommend that you just sort of give them freedom and let them do what they want. What I like to do is bring them in and I'll put them back into their crate or their kennel for just a few minutes. And then I'll just happily get the puppy back out and I'll try again, because that sort of avoids the issue of the dog coming in and having a bathroom error, a mistake in your house. Yeah,
and the other thing is, if your puppy hasn't gone, you bring them back in and they go in their crate, you take them back out. If at any point you don't return them to your crate, you need to be 100% supervising them, because your puppies are such opportunists. They'll find that moment when you're distracted. You could be eyes glued on your puppy, and then for a moment you look at your phone or you check your purse or you find something that you're looking away and your puppy has an accident. So
you check your purse.
Whatever. Yeah, that's just the first thing that came to mind. So really be aware of that. You need to be supervising your puppy 100% of the time if they're likely to have an accident. You need to be a great manager. And if your puppy does have an accident, mark that moment with an oops or an ah or a hey or something. You can even clap your hands or do something
hey,
to mark
something
that,
to sort of startle them.
Yeah, to mark that that moment, and you can sometimes interrupt the behavior, and that can be really, really helpful.
That brings me to a next point. So if any of this stuff is happening, one of the things that you're going to find just really makes this a lot easier for you is making sure your dog is on a leash or a house line. Because in my experience, if I've taken my dog out, they haven't gone to the bathroom, I'll bring them in, A, put them in their crate, or B, I purposely don't put them in their crate. So I can start to teach my dog how to ask me to go outside. I can sort of work on that particular lesson. So I'll sort of follow my puppy around for a little moment. And if they do go to have an accident on the floor and I say, hey, what are you doing? And they startle, it's very common for puppies to want to run away from you. And now you'd have to try and catch this peeing puppy, and it's just like a big disaster. So if you get after them and they say, oh my gosh, I'm out of here, just very calmly go and step on the house line or the leash and stop them. And then you can scoop them up and take them outside. There's no need to yell or scream or make a deal of it. You've indicated in the correct moment within 1 second of them making the mistake, and that's all you need to do from there. Then just get them up, scoop them up, and get them back outside. But that's very hard to do if you don't have a leash or line on. What you don't want to be doing is chasing the dog around the house, and teaching them that you're just a litter mate and that you don't really call the shots or you're not in control, and B, you don't want to make the whole situation more dramatic than it already is. You just want to be clear and simple and keep it at that.
So let's jump into some of the chat. I see some great questions about potty training coming in now. I also see that Melissa is clearly a Maple Leafs fan and is got to watch the game. I get it. Go Leafs go. I can understand. So I want to say hello to Tim Russell. Tim and I have had a conversation earlier this week. I love when our viewers or some of our students get really invested in their dog, in like trying to solve some of the problems that they might have. Tim's done a really impressive job at helping his dog work through some fear issues.
Nice.
I've made some suggestions to Tim, but he made this amazing staircase thing. It's like one of the obstacles you'd see at like a law enforcement canine thing.
Yeah.
Really,
to
really
work on building confidence.
Exactly.
On it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So very, very cool. So, but I just want to say hello to Tim. Now, let's get to some of these questions about potty training. So, Julia Rathy, how do I stop my dog from peeing on cement paths? And that's sort of an interesting one. I don't know, is there green space available? Because you're going to need something. Your dog's got to be on leash. You need to have them on leash, and you need to manage them and work them through that. But if you have something like a leave it, or you can even use your hey, if your puppy or your young dog goes to pee on somewhere that you don't want them to pee, one of the best things you can do is setting them up to be right. So if you are going out to potty and you take your puppy out to potty and you have a cement area maybe in your home, and then maybe it's a walkway or something like that, then avoid that at all costs, because especially if it's a male dog. Sometimes male dogs will almost reflexively lift their leg if they smell an area has had pee on it before.
For sure.
So avoid that area and show them exactly where you want them to go. Now, it is going to take some management, and maybe you even need to teach like a leave it command. We have a video on the channel to teach your dog how to leave it. But at this point, not totally knowing how much effort it's going to be to guide your puppy away, you need to be managing. Dog's got to be on leash. You have to be out there with them if this is happening in the backyard. If it's like the sidewalk or something like that, you can just tell them hey, and then guide them to a green space if you can.
And then the ultimate goal would be, if you use your verbal reprimand and then you follow through with the leash enough times, you're going to get to the point where your dog starts to listen just to your voice. And so eventually you could, down the road have your dog off leash, and if they go to do something like pee in a place that you don't really want them to, you can say hey, leave that, come over here, pee here, and they'll listen to you. But they won't listen until they've had the training of hearing the commands that you want them to listen to and then be guided in the direction that you're hoping them to go. I know I have that issue. I have we have some male dogs that are sometimes brutal about wanting to pee on everything on walks and whatnot, especially if other dogs have been walking there. So we will just use our leave it command, and initially training it, we would just guide the dog away from that particular area with the leash, and then eventually we can just simply control it with our voice. So
yeah, now
that's what we would say.
The chat's moving pretty quickly, but I think I've grabbed a couple that are that are good ones for you guys. So Ashmita Sharma says, I can't get my puppy to go to the bathroom outside.
This is a good question. Very common.
He's good at going on the pad, but won't go outside. What suggestions do you have?
So depending on your house situation, if you do have, the only time, I'm not a big pee pad promoter. I don't think it's a great way to teach house training. It just condones the dogs going to the bathroom in the house. However, if you live in an apartment building that's like, really, your apartment building's really high up and it's not easy to get the dog outside to the grass, then I can certainly see how that, maybe would bridge the gap. But if you can get to grass fairly easily, I would eliminate the pee pads altogether. And if you find that you can't do it cold turkey, what you can start to do is move the pee pads towards the door and then just outside the door. So actually take the pee pads from inside your house and put them outside your house and then move them towards the area that you do want your dog to go to the bathroom. In addition to that, when you're trying to teach your dog to go to the bathroom somewhere specific, so this can be off the pee pads, or maybe you've never used pee pads and you want your dog to go to the bathroom in a specific place on your property, opposed to like anywhere that they want, try to teach your dog to go to that area, but choose to go at times when you know your dog has to go to the bathroom, so that they're more likely to go. So in the morning is a perfect house training opportunity. So, pick the puppy up out of their crate instead of letting them go to the pee pad to go to the bathroom. Take them outside, and they've just been in their crates all night. Their bellies are full. They're going to have to go to the bathroom and relieve themselves. So take them outside at that moment, or for the pee pad, put it outside in that moment. Or if, you're not using a pee pad, you want them to go to a specific area, take them to that area. And if they try to go somewhere else in the meantime, stop them, scold them, and take them to that area, and then praise them like crazy when they go in the place that they want. You need to do that several mornings in a row. And dogs actually are pretty situational, so very situational. So they actually can get really good. Our dogs actually even do that on our own. Like we have an area out to the side of our house that we allow our dogs to go to, and our dogs all have their own little spots in that area that they go to the bathroom. So dogs are pretty, they develop these habits and like routines and things that falls very easily for them, or that happens very easily for them. So that's what I would suggest about the pee pads. Yeah. So tons of great questions coming in. I like this one from Betty Ash. She asks, trying to potty train my golden, should you reward with treats or positive words? It depends on the food motivation level of the dog. You certainly could reward with treats for your dog going to the bathroom, but in my experience, I've had several pretty food motivated dogs that will actually start to purposely asked to go outside just because they have associated that with getting food. I actually had a Funky Monkey, my dog Funky, when she was a puppy, she would pretend to pee so that I would feed her. So she would go out, she would squat, and then of course I would be, yes, good girl, and I would feed her. And then, after a little while, I was like, gosh, this dog is peeing so much. And then I sort of ducked to see, she's a female, so it wasn't like that easy. And I would duck to see, and it's just, she was just sort of squatting. She wasn't going to the bathroom. So she was training me so fast. She sort of had figured that out. So I stopped using food and then just continued to use verbal praise and that type of thing. And that seemed to work really well for her. So I wouldn't say that there's an exact answer for that. I think it's sort of dog dependent. You can start out with using food maybe, but if you see that that's sort of encouraging the dog to ask to go out too much, or they start fake peeing like my dog did, then you may want to eliminate that. That's not uncommon. I mean, we hear about that sort of thing all the time. I have had other people say that the same thing has happened, but... So I wanted to thank our moderator, Dan Luton, for adding that leave it. So if you're trying to teach your dog a leave it command, there's a link in the chat. But thank you, Dan. Yeah, if you're on mobile and you click that, you might be sent off this video. So, but I really appreciate Dan always adding those links in. Just be aware. So there was another question I had with so many great questions coming in. I didn't want to miss any. Lamb Chop said, even nix the pee pads when the temperatures are brutal outside. Yep. Unfortunately, dogs have to learn to go to the bathroom outside. They're only out for a second. We have had a lot of smooth-coated dogs that we've had to house train in the winter. Beeline, we got her, remember? In the winter. winter. She's got a very short coat, so we put a little coat on her and we went outside and she did her business and we would come back in. It's certainly not as enjoyable for you and for the dog because it's warmer inside, but you don't want to create gray areas for the dog because that's where you're going to get more issues. So try to just be black and white if you can.
Yeah, we get so many people who are struggling with puppy pads that I can't suggest it's ever a good situation. I mean, even if you're for short periods of time, that's the best way to do it. Yeah, a definitive line. Outside you can go potty, and inside you can't. Just because of all the issues that I've seen people develop, and all the puppies that have developed. DKM 2K12 says puppy sleeps all night just fine, can hold it 2 hours during the day. Walked a full hour and he went 3 times, then came in and peed on his raised bed after 30 minutes. Was fully supervised. Now we kind of, a couple things come to mind immediately. So does he mention the age of the dog, or he or she mention? No.
No, just puppy.
Yeah. So So Kayl talked a little bit earlier about what to do when you catch your puppy in the act. And sometimes, puppies are going to make mistakes. No puppy is perfect. And as long as you're there to give your puppy the right information, it's okay if occasionally they'll have a mistake. Now, for walking for an hour, peeing 3 times, coming in and peeing again, I'm a little bit worried about maybe like a UTI or, something else that's going on. Or maybe the puppy is too much, is just neurotically drinking water like crazy or something.
Also, walking for an hour for a puppy is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, depends on the age. That's that would be it would be good to know. But yeah, that is a long walk for a little puppy. But as you're working through this, the supervision, I love to hear that it was supervised the whole time. Doing exactly as Kayl mentioned earlier, where you mark that moment with or hey, or clap your hands or something to startle the puppy or interrupt the behavior is going to be your best course of action, because then your puppy knows exactly what's right and what's wrong.
And make sure that you really clean that bed thoroughly, because some dogs will actually go to the bathroom if they smell, an area where they've gone to the bathroom previously or another dog has. So it's not uncommon for dogs to find areas that already kind of smell like that. So make sure that you try to clean it as thoroughly as you can so that you get the scent away. And that might help stop the puppy from repeating that action.
For our next commenter, I want to say a big for SD Cruiser, as SD Cruiser joins us, a train station regular. Says, was walking Charlie through Petco, leg lift heaven for male dogs.
Oh, yeah.
This time his leg came up like half an inch, and then he looked up and locked eyes with me and put his leg down. Success. Yeah, that's great. Really, really good.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see you here, SD Cruiser. So, Deanna Brand asks, is it true small dogs are harder to potty train?
In my experience, no. But what they do have as a disadvantage is that their bladders are smaller. So they're harder in the fact that they can't hold their bladder as long as maybe a big dog can. They tend to have to be, what I would treat like a big dog at 12 weeks, I might, manage a smaller breed for a little bit longer. But in terms of the dog understanding house training and like learning to ask to go inside, absolutely no difference. I would actually say, so we have a 6-pound tiny toy poodle, and out of all of the dogs I've ever trained, and I've trained a lot of dogs, she was one of the absolute easiest dogs to house train. She was very quick to figure out to ask to go outside. So all of those parts went extremely smoothly. But what I did notice that I have to be more aware with her is that she just had to go to the bathroom more often because her little belly was so small. So I couldn't initially leave her quite as long as I could other breeds at that age. But again, she's 5 or 6 years old now, and she holds her bladder the exact same amount as all of our other bigger dogs. But just the initial, that's the only difference I found. But as far as like teaching them to ask to go outside, which is the other aspect of house training, nope, she was brilliant. She knocked it out of the park there.
I just want to post this because it's a really nice comment. Hi from Australia. You guys have helped me so much with my German Shepherd pup, and that's from Maddie Foskett. So thanks for saying that,
we
Maddie.
Want to visit Australia.
Yeah, it's beautiful, I hear. Christine Steckel asks, my 4-month-old puppy doesn't pee in the crate all night, but will pee in there during the day.
Excuse me. The first thing that I would ask is, Christine, do you have bedding in your dog's crate? because sometimes over the nighttime, there's not as much stimulation. You know, the house is quiet. There's not really much going on. So sometimes it's easier for the puppies just to kind of chill out and sleep. During the daytime, though, there's more action. You could be in and out of the house. There could be more things going on. You know, it's easier for the puppy to be more stimulated. It's also common for dogs to often have more accidents in their crate if there's bedding in their crate. It's very common for dogs to go to the bathroom on the bedding and just sort of let it soak the pee up, and then they kind of push it off to the side so they have like a nice clean area to sleep in. Typically, dogs don't like to be dirty in their crate. They like to keep their sleeping area clean. So think about...
Christine mentions only at night will we put the bedding in.
Okay, so there's no bedding in there during the day. That's great.
Good.
Also consider how big the crate is. Make sure it's small enough that the dog can't go to the bathroom in one end and then not in the other. Sometimes peeing the crate has nothing to do with the fact that they have to go pee. Sometimes it can be stress related. It can be stimulated related. They can pee for other reasons besides going to the bathroom. So there could be more going on there. Again, sometimes it's hard in this context to really give you the perfect solution because there are many options. But what I would recommend for you right now is just make sure that you're not leaving the puppy in the crate for a super long time, and make sure that if you are home, to crate the puppy more so that you can watch them in the crate.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's really hard to fix something like this if you're only crating and like you're going out for the day and that type of thing. So when you're at home, typically people don't put their dogs in the crate very often when they're home. But we can teach a lot of great things when we are home, and we can work through that. So try having a bit more crate time when you're at home to supervise, so that if they're going to pee in the crate, you can scold them and treat them just like they were outside of the crate going to the bathroom. And I think I saw her ask about toys.
Yeah, so I think we'll save that one till we get to crates.
Okay, yeah, sure.
But check out what your routine is like. If you have a great routine getting your puppy ready for that overnight rest, and your puppy doesn't have accidents overnight, and then your puppy gets up and maybe they eat, and then you do something, play something fun with them or whatever, and then they go back in their crate for any extended period of time during the day. Maybe the routine's making it a little bit more challenging for your puppy. So on top of all the amazing things that Kayl mentioned for you, just see what your routine is like, and if you're making it harder for your puppy to be right. Now we'll take looks like maybe one more question on potty training, and then let's shift gears and we'll talk about crate, because I see lots of good crate questions coming in here. So Nappy says, it's sometimes difficult to get my puppy to go potty when it's raining. He usually has the courage when I stand in the rain with him. Yeah, and this is something that I would encourage it. So because it's a puppy, I would always be, even when it's raining. I mean, here it's like -10 right now.
It is
degrees.
so cold.
And I'll go out if we had a winter puppy. I'll go out with that puppy
We go out with our dogs now.
Yeah, we do.
And they're all
right.
adults.
Yeah, to make sure that everyone is going and whatever. But I would go
And this
even
is
if it's
going to
raining.
sound weird, but we like to look at their poo.
Well, yeah, you need to, right. Well, you need to know.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah, you need to know what the consistency is. And we've had
Yeah.
some dogs with GI issues lately. So
Health.
yeah, for their health, it's good to keep an eye on that if you have a multiple dog household. But go out with your puppy, even though it's out in the rain. While you're potty training, it's so important to know if your puppy's gone, how much they're going, all these little things. So, put on your rain jacket and your rubber boots and head
Umbrella.
out, or take an umbrella and head out there
umbrella
with them.
made for two.
Yeah, I've seen those. They have like these amazing little upside down umbrellas. They're for dogs. Have you ever seen that picture of that? It's adorable. Anyway. Moving on, I guess Kayl doesn't know what we're talking about. So lots of good questions coming in about crates. I also saw a couple of questions. So let's shift gears. Now we're going to talk about potty training. And I just wanted an opportunity to blow the train station whistle.
Crate training.
Yes, crate training. We're going to move on to crate training now. And again, I just wanted a chance to blow the whistle. So I get to do it 3 times now.
Is this
the train station.
Pointing new?
No, I've always done that. Remember, we had half an episode where I talked about like some sort of awesome thing that I do just before I blow the whistle.
I don't remember like the finger point though.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like that's new.
Maybe it is. No, it's not that new. I've been doing it for some time, I think.
He's committed to this.
Okay.
Guys.
So,
He's committed to the finger
couple
pointing.
great questions. So moving into crate training, if you have a question about crate training, or something related to crate training, now is the time to drop it into the chat. Greg Folds asks a question that sort of relates to crate training. So how long should a training session be for a puppy per day. So a crate is a great way to manage your puppy. If you aren't able to supervise them or engage with them or play with them or train them or whatever you're going to do, a crate is a really important way to keep them safe, to limit the amount of mistakes that they can make, the trouble that they can get into. But Kayl and I often
think of it like a playpen for a toddler. Like you can't possibly follow a toddler around, every single moment of the day. Sometimes you need to put them down for a nap. Sometimes you need to put them in, there while you have a shower. So it's the same thing. You would never let, a young child run around the house and go into a bunch of different rooms all by themselves. Like, you're constantly watching them to make sure they're okay. It's same thing. I just read that. How dare you interrupt mid toot, Kayl?
I agree. Thank you, Dan, for your support.
Okay. You two are not allowed to gang up on me.
Okay.
Anyways, shoot. What was I just saying?
Talking about managing your dog, managing your puppy, using the crate.
Totally
training times throughout the day.
I totally lost my train of thought.
So something that we often talk about is breaking your training sessions up into little short bite-sized pieces, putting your puppy in their crate, taking them out, engaging with them, really letting them know that you're of value, that you are someone who's fun, worth listening to, and engaging with. So multiple times through the day, but puppies have little bellies. Puppies have, these short energy spikes, and then they sort of just, they run out of gas.
They're extremely curious, so you should never underestimate what a little puppy can do.
Right. So, have multiple training sessions. Maybe they're 10 minutes each. Maybe they're 15 minutes, whatever. A few times throughout the day, whatever suits your schedule, so that it maybe before you go to work or once in the morning after breakfast, whatever, and then throughout the day. The other great thing about that is that it's sort of, if you always train every night at 6 o'clock, after you have dinner, your puppy and as they age into being a young dog, they're going to start to know that the only time that they really need to listen and the only time that you are going to do training with them is after dinner at 6 o'clock. So, and it's not that they can tell time, it's about the routines in their life. So really change it up, throw those little training sessions in, maybe as you're getting your breakfast ready or at lunchtime or whatever.
Yeah. Short little training sessions all throughout the day. And really, it's all about managing your dog well, which is training as well. But sometimes when we say the word training, people think, okay, I got to have my bait patch on, I got to have my treats out, my leash, and that's my training session. And then they kind of put all that stuff away, and then they don't really manage the dog or think about what the dog's doing. So, your dog's learning your puppy's learning every single second of the day. So, trying to integrate your, showing your dogs your expectations and helping them to learn in every situation that they're out of their crate is really the best way to train them. But short periods of time, many times throughout the day, if you're working on specific skill building. Yeah.
So Perla Vasquez has a really great question. I have 2 puppies, a girl and a boy. Should I keep them in the same crate or separate? What do you think about that, Kayl?
You are very daring to get 2 puppies at the same time. Absolutely should be in separate crates, and we even recommend putting them in different rooms. There is a lot of bumps that you are going to have to overcome having 2 puppies at the same time. And one of the biggest issues is that litter mates will tend to bond to one another and become very dependent on one another. And the handlers or the owners often will have a hard time competing with that type of bond, and we see a lot of separation anxiety with dogs are crated together for too long, and so on and so forth. So make sure that those puppies are learning to bond with you and to learn things completely separate from one another, which means, you think 1 puppy's a lot of work, but having 2 is literally double the work. But no, absolutely not crated in the same crate. You could maybe have them side by side, but if they're already really attached to one another, then I would recommend crating them in different rooms. Keep them away from each other until you have them both trained, and then they'll be fine to be put together back again at that point. That's not a forever thing, just right now if they're young.
I see another hockey fan says, Kingpin says, can you guys please schedule your live chats for either before or after or anytime there isn't a Leaf game? Can you tell we're Canadian? Is this our Canadian viewership is struggling right now to decide between the Leaf game and the train station. So I've seen a few questions come in about separation anxiety.
Okay.
and it's a complex issue. We spend time. We have a couple of behaviorists on staff, one skills and one for behavior modification, that spend a lot of time dealing with separation anxiety in dogs. One thing that's always a good option and a good opportunity is to use a crate to provide some, a positive place that you can reinforce in. It's also a consistent place for a dog that you can really build value for. I know, talking to one of our instructors, something when we were discussing a separation anxiety case, he said the thing that the dog owner wasn't doing was using the crate enough. And the dog would get really worried before they'd leave the house.
Yeah, because they start to associate it with you leaving the house or going to sleep, and there's no other opportunity for the dog to go in there and realize, oh, my owner's right there. She's not going anywhere. I don't have to be worried. People assume if they're home that the dog shouldn't be crated, but when they're young, that's something that we really recommend that you do.
And it's really a good, as Kayl mentioned, it's a really good idea because you can. So I've seen a few questions about crates, and I think Alice McCord mentioned that her dog had destroyed the crate. Well, you need to be there to train your puppy or your young dog through that. You need to make sure they're in their crate occasionally during the day when you aren't, if you're working on fixing crate problems, then you need to devote that time when you might be out working on healing or working on like your recall to the crate, to training through the crate, to interrupting that barking and chewing and all those things, to get them to settle and sit when they're getting really stimulated in their crate. But it needs to happen throughout the day, just like any other training session would. The other thing, as Kayl mentioned, is it allows you to reinforce the dog and be there. You can reinforce them within eyeshot or eyesight, within line of sight, whatever. As well, you can hear them. Maybe. It's impossible to fix a problem, especially like a crate training related problem, when you're not there.
Yeah.
So your dog gets reinforced. They know that it's not the end of the world, that you're there to praise them for making good choices.
It's also very stressful for them. If you're taking off and they're barking and whining and scratching and could potentially hurt themselves in the crate, like that needs to be at the front of your priority list as far as, fixing it goes. But the crate, there's a lot of benefits to the crate. There's a million behavioral issues that you are going to avoid altogether because of using a crate with a young dog. You can fix a bunch of things, but also too, like, we were at the vets the other day and there was a dog that was into, not our dog, but a dog that had to be held overnight because it was really sick. And it was just horrible in the crate because it wasn't crate trained. The dog was already very sick. It was on an IV and it was stressed because it was stuck in this crate because the owners refused to crate the dog. So now when they have to take the dog to the vet to be cared for, to help it, feel better, because the dog doesn't know how to be in a crate, it just made the whole experience just so awful for the poor little dog. Or if you need to board your dog, the vet is a good example, crating your dog in the car for safety. So if you get in an accident, your dog is safe. So, just the crates are the way to go.
Yeah, Nick Garber, I see if I've added this to the queue. The chat's moving so quickly, it's hard to, who's got a good question? Hi guys, my 4.5-month-old border collie will bark while in his crate. When he sees me leave the room, I tried everything. I pretend to leave. I corrected from around the corner for barking, and then Nick had mentioned a few other things.
When you say correct, what do you mean? What are you doing?
Yeah, you've got to be careful with how you address those situations. He said, but he mentions I've crated him while I'm there to normalize the crate. Good, which is a good choice. I've also varied the amount of time I'm gone and varied letting him in and out.
You're on the right track on a lot of things for sure. Just make sure that your timing is good. So when he is making noise, you need to mark that with your voice the moment he makes noise. So quiet, something that's firm and direct. And then from there, you need to follow through with something physical to back up your verbal, because a lot of people will just, shout at the dog or tell them quiet, and then the dogs will just continue barking, a few seconds later. So you might need to say quiet and go and, smack the top of the crate or
yeah, something just like
startled the dog.
Yeah, just stop that mindset. Barking is a really self-rewarding behavior for dogs, and the act of barking is rewarding, and they just bark and bark, and it feels good. And it may have started from some sort of anxiety, but once they get into the routine of barking, it feels good.
Yeah. The other thing you need to be careful too is if the dog has sort of figured out that when it barks, you're going to return, even if you're coming back to like tell the dog to stop barking and you're being a bit negative with the dog. Some dogs are like, oh, you're back. I don't care that you're being negative. I can see you. So also make sure that you're waiting until the dog is more quiet and then you're returning into the room at that point. So the dog realizes that quiet behavior brings you back and that they can see you at that point. Okay, using an at. So with your at then, you need to follow through with some type of physical. And if you want to do the around the corner trick, which is great, add the at and then have a long line attached to the crate door.
Yeah.
Say at, pull on the long line so it shakes the crate door. You're going to get maybe just a few moments of silence, maybe just a second. Then you need to say yes, good, quiet, and then return back into the room and then praise the puppy from there. But you need to follow through with something that makes your voice have a bit more credibility, because you can till the cows come home.
Machine gun.
Yeah, and the dogs are gonna be like, whatever this stuff is, you do it all day long, and I don't really care. So you have to have follow through. There needs to be some meaning behind that, so that eventually when you do say it, your dog goes, oh, I know, I understand what that means, and I need to be quiet in order to earn reward and praise from you.
Really good. I want to just move along to the next. I think we've already covered that one. Okay, Quincy Owens asks a great question. When should a crate stop being used for overnights?
This is totally dog dependent, so I don't want to throw an age out there because all dogs are so different. It really depends on how well their house training is going, how well their obedience and listening is going, how well, are they doing a good job of not chewing things in your house? That's probably the big thing. So it's hard to really say, but when your dog, can be trusted when you're not there, to not do bad behaviors, then I would say that would be a similar time where you can start letting them sleep out of their crate at night. How old? Beeline was pretty young when she started to sleep out of her crate at night, but she also was really quick to not. She wasn't really a dog that like chewed a lot of things and whatever. But also keep in mind we're dog trainers and we don't give the dogs very many opportunities to make those errors.
Right.
So we were able to give her freedom overnight very, very quickly. I would say under a year she was already sleeping out of her crate. But it was definitely at the point where I completely felt she was ready. It wasn't like, okay, let's try this out and see if we still have a baseboard in the morning.
Right.
It was I felt very confident about what we were doing. So that would be sort of my best answer. I don't want to give an age. It's more about behavior and the dog's ability to make good choices by that point.
Yeah, and I see some other good questions. If you have a question about socialization for your puppy, that's the next topic we're going to talk about. We've got a couple more great questions here speaking to crate training, but Alice McCord has asked a couple of important things. Well, she's mentioned she's really struggling with her crate. Her dog's destroyed the crate, and the separation anxiety she feels the dog has when she leaves, and the dog makes quite a mess. Alice, go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be just maybe a bit more of an issue than just normal separation anxiety. You might need to seek advice from a professional that can really talk to you about how the day's going. It might be a little bit more in depth than what we can do on a live stream, but we'll do the best that we can.
Yeah, for
without
sure.
Knowing all of the ins and outs of being able to have an actual conversation with you about it.
I mentioned a little bit earlier about the puppy potty training issue where, see what your routine is. Someone was having trouble with their puppy going potty in the crate during the day.
Interested to know if you're using a wire crate or a plastic crate as well.
Yeah. She's still here, so she'll probably mention it. But see what your routine is. What are because something's triggering your dog to feel this anxiety. Something is starting them thinking, so she's about to leave, or I have reason to get really anxious and worried. Really closely, be really self-aware about what you're doing when your dog starts to get anxious, and you need to break that rhythm. Another great thing you can do is before you reach that point. So let's say Really simple, but let's say you you make your breakfast, and you put your coat on, grab your keys, and head out the door. And your dog goes. You put your dog in a crate, and then you head out the door. Well, probably if you've done it enough times, your dog knows that the moment you click the toaster down to start your breakfast, she's leaving really soon. It's time to get amped up. So if you can,
dogs are really that smart.
Yeah, she had a wire crate, or has a wire crate. So if you can break some of these routines, some of these triggers, eliminate some of these triggers, so change up your routine a little bit and preemptively give your dog something great, like maybe a Kong with something inside it that they love. Maybe before you start your breakfast, or, it's going to be time dependent. I don't know how fast your dog will eat all the peanut butter out of the Kong. But if you can, give them something interesting to think about and distract them from the fact that you're just about to leave, can be a really powerful way to avoid that trigger of the separation anxiety. Now, certainly, I don't know. It sounds like you have, it's a pretty complicated or complex issue you may have, and I would suggest speaking with a local behaviorist if you can, to maybe identify. We don't know enough about your dog, about your relationship. What
I can see
stimulating.
I can see from some of the comments you're making a few things you are doing wrong, though. I don't mean it to be that negative, but hopefully this can be quick fixes. One of the things you mentioned is when my dog is in trouble, he knows it and heads to its crate. So that tells me that the dog, does understand that the crate is a place for him to go and feel safe. But B, if he's associating being in trouble with going to the crate, you've somehow associated something negative with the crate.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that your dog's not doing that. If you get him in trouble for something, you need to make sure that you solve that problem, address that issue, and then you need to find something successful. And then every time he goes to his crate, whether you're sending him there or he's going on his own, it must be in a positive manner. We never use the crates for any type of disciplinary action or timeouts. We don't believe in anything like that. No. It's, dogs are not children. They live and understand things very differently. So timeouts are very foolish. The crate is wire. I would definitely suggest a plastic crate. There's a lot of dogs that feel more comfortable in a plastic crate because it's a bit more of a denning type feel, which a lot of dogs really like. And another thing I noticed is that you said, I say no in a barking tone. Yeah, we try to avoid using the word no in our training if possible, because it's such a normal conversational word that you would have with your family members and that type of thing. We want to try to use a phrase or a sound that's more particular.
No isn't specific enough. So if we want to give our dog we always want to be coaching our dogs, and if we want to give our dog information, then we, if they're going to hop up on the counter, we might use a leave it or an off. It's very specific. If your dog picks up a sock, jumps on the couch, and is running around like a madman, and you say no, well, what are you saying no to? Is it that you want him off the couch, or you want him to drop the sock? Which thing is it? So we want you to be really specific with your dog so that he clearly understands the mistake that he's made. So in this case, maybe it's a quiet, or maybe it's a go lie down, or whatever the thing is. But you've got to be careful about using no, because no might, for you two, might mean don't pull on my leash. No might mean don't jump up on me. It might mean, stop chewing the leg of the Chesterfield or a couch or whatever.
Chesterfield, you're pulling out some great words today.
I know. We know what we're going.
Chesterfield.
It's
are you from the 1960s?
Throwback language here on the train station. But you need to be giving your dog really specific information and getting away from that no. And here's this little sneak peek. I'm going to talk a little bit about this on Monday's video, so make sure you check it out at 7:30. But using that no is try to stay away from it. Try to give them more specific information. So, get back to the chat. So did we cover this one already? I don't think so.
We did say from another girl about crating dogs together.
So Laura Hoffman says 3-year-old French Bulldogs, can I leave them in an apartment in the crate together? Why not? Yeah, so especially with the younger dogs, 3 months old, they're going to be 12 weeks. A couple of reasons why I always suggest that people do not crate their dogs together. Number one, we talk about the bond. We really want our puppy to bond with us. First things first. They really need to know that we are worth listening to and that we bring lots of value. The other thing is, it's so important we have a multiple dog household, and so do you. So in a multiple dog household, you want to have some idea of how much each dog is eating, how much each dog is drinking, if any dog is having accidents. So that's really, if one of your puppies makes a mess in the crate, you don't know which one, and you're not there, you don't know which one it was. If you're feeding them and they're that close together, and one doesn't finish their food and the other one finishes it, you'll never know. It's so nice for your puppies to each have their own time to relax, maybe chew on a bone or something, chew on something. So try to separate those two puppies. Try to get them into the separate crates for all of those reasons, plus the ones that we talked about before. Jumping in, shifting gears here. Let's shift gears and move on to socialization as we are moving along in the train station. Lamb Chop asks, what is the most important specific specialization skills that can be done for a 10-week-old puppy who had no litter mates?
I think maybe she means socialization.
Yeah, didn't I say that?
Specialization.
Oh, socialization. Yeah, sorry.
Well, that's a hard one because it depends on the dog's temperament. If the dog is very boisterous and sort of could potentially be a bit of a bully, then I would be working on a lot of control and focus on you and not exposing the dog to a lot of other dogs at this point. If the dog is going to be really worried because it's scared of other dogs because it's not really been around them, then, I may want to work through that. However, I would be extremely cautious on how I did it to make sure that I was exposing my dog to situations that are going to encourage, the dog in the direction I want and not hurt the situation anymore. There's lots of people that will socialize their dogs and put them in situations where, it's not really to the dog's advantage. They could, get overwhelmed really easily, or they could learn to be a bully, or, they could get in a dog fight. There's just lots of ways it could go wrong. So I actually find it really hard to answer that, not knowing anything about the dog's temperament.
Yeah. So talk about this. The socialization things that we think are really important, even when it's not dog-to-dog socialization, we know that the dog-to-dog socialization can go wrong. Unless it's under a watchful eye, we're always worried about people who say, oh, I took my dog to the park and they met a friend. We took, my puppy to my neighbor's house, and they have an older whatever breed, and we let them socialize. I always worry with a young dog about their experience, as Kayl sort of talked about before, unless there's someone who's really got a keen eye and knows when sort of the tables can turn. But the most important socialization that you can do with your dog is socializing them to people, places, and things. So getting them really comfortable with maybe even things like different surfaces in your house, or meeting the neighbor. Certainly you want to work on that,
different
sitting at your
sounds
side.
out in the street.
Different sounds, for sure. The puppies that really, we went to New York City a few months ago, and I was really impressed at the amount of dogs that could not even turn their head when a street sweeper went by, where our dogs would be like, what on earth is that thing? But these dogs have had a great socialization experience, and it's not with other dogs. I've mentioned it throughout the course of tonight's show, but we want our dogs to have a solid relationship with us. That's why you have a dog, so that you can go out and you do things with them. You don't have to worry as much at this point about their relationship with other dogs. Certainly, you want
them to be friendly and
right.
and well behaved and
absolutely
and respectful
for sure.
Other dogs.
Yeah, which is something that you have a unique challenge, something that you may have to introduce them to so that they can understand. But let's phrase it like this. So after you've focused on people, places, and things with your socialization, if you have someone who you really trust, somebody who their dog is really great, is well behaved, or whatever the situation might be, maybe that would be a person that you would consider trying socialization with. Yep. But I always worry about people socializing their dogs with other dogs, because we get so many dogs in for behavioral training that got bit at the dog park. or had a negative experience with the neighbor's dog, and now they've got to work through all these challenges and struggles. I feel so bad for these dogs because they just don't know any better. One bad episode can create so many problems. So I need to be really careful and keep that in mind. Like, socialization is people, places, and things, and then after that, after you have a dog who responds reliably, we actually have a video on the channel how to introduce your puppy to your other dogs, and maybe Dan can pop that in the chat. But that would be a good video for you to check out because we talk a lot about how to really, what the benchmark should be before you start introducing your puppy to other dogs. Okay, what else have we got here? Oh, I saw this from Kingpin, and we'll go back just for a second. He says, I'll be picking up my first puppy, Jack Russell, at the end of the month. It's about a 5-hour drive, and it's going to be cold from Saskatoon to Winnipeg. Yeah, I bet it will be cold on that drive. He also says, I have a travel crate, and as I understand, it's not a good idea to have any bedding inside. The car will be warm, of course, but is that warm enough? What about a toy or something like a Nylabone in the crate?
Since the puppy is so new, I would start without a bed in the crate, but I would have one on hand, or like a towel or something, because sometimes in that situation, just adding a bed or a crate might comfort the dog in a new situation and just sort of help the dog settle a little bit more. If the puppy's like being able to shift around in the crate because the car's moving, that could cause more stress. So I would just have one on hand and, throw it in there if you think that would be helpful. You could really go either way. Obviously, the warmth, I'm not too worried about the warmth because your car will be warm if the puppy's in the car with you. But I'd be more worried about like the puppy sliding around in the crate or the puppy just being overwhelmed because it's a pretty new situation. Sometimes having them, with bedding in the crate can be a little bit more helpful, calming.
Tim Russell says, if mine is skittish of people, should I allow them to try and pet her?
Absolutely not. No. When your dog is skittish of people, you really need to be patient and make sure that the dog is ready for people to, lean in and pet. For a lot of dogs, somebody leaning over to pet them can be a really intimidating situation. Yeah. And if people are sort of forcing themselves on the dog, or in this scenario, then sometimes they can make your problem worse. So a good thing to do is just to get your dog comfortable just being around people without people trying to pet her. And if you think that the dog is then ready to, learn to greet someone, pick and choose your people wisely, because there's very few dog savvy people out there when you're just meeting people on the street. And a lot of people are like, oh, what a cute dog. And they lean over with their hands and they move quickly, or they bend down. And that's just overwhelming to the dog. So you need to be very picky about the people that you expose your dog to. Make sure that they're calm and quiet and have a good way about them, and they're not going to overwhelm the dog. We have one of our dogs that is not super keen about meeting new people, and when people kind of push the issue with her and try to get her to come and say hello, she's much worse. If they just sort of ignore that she's there and talk to me and just not really make a big deal, I can see her kind of shimmy her way over and like lean against them and be like, okay, I think I could say hi to you. And then they can usually pet her from there. So, if they are skittish of people, you don't want to force the issue. You need to just pick at it away very calmly and at the pace that the dog sets themselves.
Yeah, good. Just Elizabeth Uwa has a question about crate training. Our puppy keeps pooping in the crate when we put her in her crate to leave. We space out the time to be a few hours after she ate, and we have a divider in the crate, and she sleeps in it at night. Again, this is a little bit, we're going to go back to even though there's a divider, I'm not sure what kind of puppy it is, but even though there's a divider in it before, there might be enough room for your puppy to feel like she can have an accident. Is it she? Yeah. She can have an accident in one place and move back. The other thing is knowing that you have a problem. We talk a little bit about having your crate near you when you're dealing with potty training, when you're dealing with crate training. And at night, maybe you can put it near your bed, or, during the day, your puppy should be in their crate somewhere nearby that you can keep an eye on them, and you'll know if they're about to have an accident. You can use that same potty training, that sort of marking, that negative reinforcer, marking that moment that she's making a mistake. But you do need to be really aware of the fact that you're going to have to invest some time to train that, to stop her from pooping in her crate. It's actually something I might make a video on because I know other people have asked about this. And Wallace. So we're going to talk, before we wrap up, we'll answer some more of these questions. Potty training help. 10-week-old mini Aussie. We take her out frequently. She'll go potty inside. We reward. Then she's inside for a few minutes and pees again. The double peer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you might not have been here earlier, Anne, but we talk about this occasionally. So a couple of things you can do here. If you think that your puppy hasn't gone totally, or you think that your puppy might have an accident when you come back inside, you need to be 100% eyes on that puppy unless they're in their crate, so that your puppy doesn't feel like they can be an opportunist to take advantage of the that little bit of freedom, and they'll have an accident. If you do, you catch them in the act, you give them the or whatever to mark that moment. We have a few videos on potty training on the channel, like a whole potty training playlist. But if you feel like your puppy might be having an accident indoors, even after you've let them out, you need to make sure you're supervising them. It's so vitally, vitally important. And Becca Schwartz, my bulldog is peeing in his crate every day. What can I do to deter this? I've made it small enough he can barely turn around, and nothing in the bottom of the crate. So I love the fact that you have reduced the size. Now he should be able to turn around. Your puppy should be able to turn around, stand up, and lie down comfortably. I love that there's nothing in the bottom of the crate. But sort of speaking to I forget who mentioned, maybe Elizabeth, you're going to have to train specifically on your puppy being in the crate. Watching them, supervising them, move that crate around in your house so that you can address these issues as you encounter them, as they come up, and you can do the things that we mentioned earlier in the live stream. But you're going to have to focus on it. You're going to have to devote some time to really watching your puppy. Oh, great. So Dan Luton has dropped the potty training playlist in the chat. He keeps coming up. He's what a great moderator.
You're a ringer.
Yeah. He also told me that his 93-year-old grandfather even calls it a couch rather than a Chesterfield. Does anyone else call it a Chesterfield?
No one calls it a Chesterfield. You're crazy.
No, I think my parents did. It was a Chesterfield.
When you say Chesterfield, I automatically think of like a flowered couch with like the wood things.
That's
that, like,
exactly
go in the
what we
middle.
had. That's exactly what we had.
My God.
It was actually built for like an exceptionally tall man. It was remarkable. It was this huge couch, or Chesterfield. It was really cool. With that said, we do these live streams for you guys. I hope that we have been able to help you out a little bit. Remember, we publish every Monday at 7:30, and we try to have a train station every Thursday at 7:30, so that we can help you out. And I want to thank you guys for joining us. If this is your first time on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every single week to help you to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Now, I have a really cool announcement that's coming up soon. You don't even know about this yet. But we, the director of online training at McCann Dogs, Shannon, and I have been working on this idea because we were saying, oh, Judy says we always said Chesterfield. Thank you, Judy. We had this really exciting thing. We're always talking about, like, how can we give you guys more? Like, how can you get more training and like get more information? And we have a really exciting thing coming up, and it's going to cost $0 every single month. It's totally free, $0 down, nothing a month, and it's going to be really fun. It's going to be. I don't want to reveal too much. Maybe I'll save it. But
I feel like you've already revealed too much.
It's going to be great. I'm excited about it.
So when do they get to find out about it?
Maybe next.
When do I get to find out about it? When we turn the stream off?
Well, possibly, or maybe I'll keep it a secret from Kayl. Maybe that's what we'll have to do.
I'll find out.
But yeah, she probably will. Let's be honest. But I want you to keep an eye on the channel. I will definitely announce it to our YouTube audience first. Don't tell our Facebook fans or our Instagram followers or our Twitter followers. Don't tell those guys. Just for you guys, I'll definitely announce it here first so that you can get in to it. And I'm excited to share it with you guys.
Get into it.
With that said, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to wish you guys happy training. And thank you again to our moderators and all of you guys who asked amazing questions. On that note, I'm Ken.
I'm Kayl.
Happy training, guys. Bye for now.
See ya.